Welcome everyone to our workshop. Today we're going to talk about how we can use Cloverleaf to help with transforming our teams. I'm going to take us through, first of all, why an increase in self-awareness can really help you understand root causes to workplace conflict and sluggish results. I also want to talk about just really practical strategies on how you can adapt to any environment, because so often our environment isn't just your specific team. It's environments with customers, it's environments with cross-functional teams, and the list goes on. And then also just how to apply these insights so you can be a better leader, mentor. I'll even show you how I have a dashboard for my family. Before we begin, Revel Coach, we decided when my sister and I were starting the company, we did a really significant research project to understand what does it take for women to thrive in the workplace? And what are some characteristics about some people when maybe they're not thriving or they're kind of not feeling like they're the type that are doing well? And we interviewed probably upwards of 100 people. I think Lucy would probably know the exact answer, but we really did a lot of research, and it was difficult for us to find a common theme because there was different demographic backgrounds, there was different religions, diversity of income, we really weren't finding anything that was very similar until we made this quick realization, is that those that were deemed in the more successful category were the type were living more above center. More often they had these, more often how they describe themselves, how other describes them, and how we felt around them were more these adjectives above center. And those that were below center, like kind of not as successful or had some struggles or some doubts or some fear, they have more of these adjectives. So our philosophy with Revel Coach is that we want to, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's impossible to live above center because we're humans. You interact with people, you set new goals, you have obstacles. And really those are, when you have a down moment, that's when the growth and learning comes from. So the thought is to not avoid the down, but it's really like, how long can you stay down there? And how long do you understand what it takes to get back above? So my sister and I, many of you know this from our family story, but we lost our mom about 6 months ago to Alzheimer's. And even as we're going through our experience building Revel Coach together and our mom's struggling, we're like, well, we're not going to choose to have in the next 6 years below center because we have something very sad in our world. But how do we learn from it? How do we grow from it? So the thought would be how to have more moments above center. So then that way you are living a joyful life. You do set goals. You do have things like that. So there's techniques to go from below center to above center. And I'd love to ask a couple of people. I'm going to intentionally ask Petra first. But when you think about like going above center, you can share in the chat and I'll share some of those things. But I'd love to hear like if anybody has any, simple techniques you use to kind of go like when you're down, how do you get above?
My number one go-to is always gratitude. So practicing gratitude, especially I think during COVID, there was so much, we can't do this, we can't do that. Can't was just this word that was everywhere. And, I leaned on my just gratitude practices that I have. And I really thought, you know what, I'm really going to just focus on the can. There's so much we can still there's so much we still can do. And so just like you were saying, it is a choice, and sometimes it gets really, really hard to climb to above center, but there are techniques and choices. And mine is always to go to gratitude. And so I started focusing on what I can do instead of what I can't do in a situations. And so that's always my first go-to. That and prayer.
I was going to say gratitude.
I know. Prayer's a big part. So it's probably prayer first. And it reminds me to be grateful.
Yeah. And I'm going to give a shout out also, Linda, her point on music. Music is so helpful universally. You can different vibes and you can connect things. And it is a way of getting people, pumped up to, to be prepared for something. It's a way to mellow them out, to have a little less stress. So music's a great one. And then Lucy, I'm not going to let you get away with your little marketing ploy there. Lucy, you have some good techniques of how to go above center. Can you share other than workshops like this?
Other than talking to Marcy, which really is one of mine. She just always has such a good perspective, and I love when I get to chat with you. But aside from that, I really love like a cold plunge. And if you don't have like a body of water near you, just going in the shower and turning it freezing cold, even if it's the last 10 seconds, it's really, really good for you. And it's good for your vagus nerve and things like that. So it actually is like proven to make you go above center because it really makes you like get out of the thoughts in your head and into like your body, the present moment, which really again helps you get above center. So I love all things like that, like sauna, cold plunge, like experiences. I loved the music answer. Same with me. I feel like if something really upbeat comes on the radio, all of a sudden I'm happy, I'm cheerful, I'm singing. Something really sad is on, tears are coming down. So that can change your vibe. So if you're in a sad mood, put the happy music on. Some other things that I like is just like diving into a book because again, it can just get you out. If you're dealing with something stressful, you can kind of put yourself into a different world. I've learned that distraction is not always a bad thing. Sometimes if you have like so much going on, it's healthy to distract yourself with something like a book or a walk so that you can just get yourself out of like whatever current thing is going on that is maybe stressful or putting you in any of those below center feelings. And like exercise, a yoga class, things like that.
Wonderful. And so we're hearing some great things. So Lucy, thank you for sharing that. We're hearing other great things like noticing things in nature, exercise, journaling. So there's a lot of really great techniques. And like I said in the beginning, I'm kind of a self-help junkie. So I love trying different things. I've gotten like, I do have my DNA is a very, very busy mind. So I love challenging myself with a quiet mind on meditation. And there's things you can do. But there's one thing that I feel like a lot of us, it all goes out the window when there's that one person you're interacting with and the other person's causing you to go below center. And as a result, you're just so frustrated and you can only, you feel like you can't control somebody else, but then what do I do because of this interaction? So that is my plug for the workshop on this one, because this is where Cloverleaf comes into play for me personally. And I think others on this call that have been using the tool, it's really extremely helpful in the sense that these personality assessments, they're scientifically proven to really help capture people's personalities in a way that puts them in a way that defines them and helps them demystify the complexities of who they are, to communicate differently, to show up differently, to think about how your strength puts you in the balcony because it's really who you are and why you're so brilliant. And that same strength is what you lean into that can kind of put you in the basement and make you also struggle. And what Cloverleaf does, and I'll show you another graphic coming up, but it doesn't just lean on one. So there are behavioral ones, even these 3 behavioral ones, they all have different philosophies, different questions that put you in a category that defines it differently, but they have ones based on culture, when you're most productive, ones on strength. So as you use the diversity of these different assessments, their technology uses like, an AI feature, but they pull your personality. And I almost like put it like a Rubik's Cube. Your personality is so different. So on one side of the cube, you could all be orange, but then none of the other colors match up at all. So on one personality, you could be similar, but the others you're not. So this kind of really reflects who you are. And so for me, I like saying it's just like when you're using Cloverleaf tool, it's no big deal. It's like putting up a mirror. Like I have brown long hair. I can't debate it. Like that's just kind of how I am. And then there's times like, like all of us, it's just they have a good way of just saying who you are. So when you're interacting with other people, you can start understanding who they are. So as we get more into the workshop, this is the thing. These are some statistics that part of me makes me bummed out, and the other part of me motivates me because none of us need to be a statistic, but for sure, the workforce is struggling with some things of disengagement. They're struggling with people are distracted. You're struggling with people are really, it's just when you go into work, maybe not thriving. So you know what it's like when you're in a team and you're both on fire and you're like, yeah, let's go for it. It's just winning is inevitable. But then, when you're on the team and you're like, you're on fire, no one else is. It's just, it's difficult. So these types of statistics is where I like to kind of say, I kind of go into Cloverleaf to help understand diversity of thought and people because the ultimate goal is for us to kind of be leaders that inspire people to bring their best self despite diversity of thought. So to me, I use this one client of mine here, like the arrows you can see here, they're identical twins. If we left with just one assessment, we'd be like, yeah, well, we're basically high D, high I. That's just how we are. And we accidentally label ourselves, which then can be putting you in a box, which is not the purpose of a personality assessment, or it could kind of be your excuse. Well, I'm not really good in details because I'm high D, high I. So that's not really the intention. But if you look at this is just kind of a snapshot from the Cloverleaf tool. They're not very similar in the other ones. So it's interesting. And what I found myself, and when I am interacting with people and that person, I have that frustrating thought. And then my second thought is go to Cloverleaf and just start searching. I try to think of somebody that's like them. And then I just try to understand them. So we're going to go through the Cloverleaf tool to show 3 different ways that it can be used. Because the ultimate goal is more love than judge and don't be below center. So that's what we're trying to do. That's where we're trying to head. So there are 3 ways I like to say using Cloverleaf. First is self-awareness. You can't be the best authentic leader, wife, mom, whatever title you want to hat you want to wear, if you don't have true self-awareness. And then the second part is this understanding of another. And then the third is team awareness. So we at that. I'm going to pull up my Cloverleaf, but does anybody have any questions or comments or anything while I pull that up? You want to jump in? This workshop's about to get very interactive. I just want to kind of have some baseline introductions.
Well, I just want to add to what you just said about the 1, 2, 3, right? The 3 things. It starts with us. And a lot of times we are pointing the finger at the teammate or the team. Like, I'm the only one that's, engaged, or I'm the one. And it really is like, well, am I below center? Am I in overdrive with my strengths? And so I love that it begins with us, and then it allows more love and less judge. I love that.
Yeah, Petra was good for me. My pre-Cloverleaf, I did a coaching session with Petra. She's a strengths finder. Assessment is her background. So she's a strengths coach. And so I am high achiever and high activator. So I love to think of the ideas and then I have to implement the idea. So I get myself pretty busy. And what I learned from her is that is my strength. But when I'm under stress, I can drive myself crazy and accidentally, like if I'm in a state of overwhelm, I can put more on my plate because that's what's worked for my life. But I actually need to change the subject, listen to music, go work out. I need to do all the things that we were talking in the beginning. So it was a good thing for me to learn from Petra how like your strengths are what serves you and they're also what causes you some struggle. Yeah. Hi, Linda.
Can I make a quick request for that love chart? I'd actually would like to show that.
You want me to email it afterwards? You want to see it now?
Oh no, after. I'm just thinking like I would love to use this. I love what you do. So
yeah. Oh, thank you. I definitely, yeah, I'll send this afterwards.
Thank you.
And Lynn, I'm glad you're off mute because you're about to be off mute a lot.
Okay.
When it comes to, the first step is self-awareness. They have a really good, you get a morning email. I am a big journaler. Every morning I try to, really spend some time and just get prepared for the day or whatever I need to do. And they will send you an email, a coaching tip. I like to reflect on the coaching tip. You can, whatever is your question of the day, for this one, how can I manage stress? And you get some really good tips on yourself. And I like to cruise through them to understand one that lands for me for today. And all that does is if you think of like major headwinds coming your way, and headwind could be because you're really excited about a project. But if you have a headwind coming your way, when you allow a coaching tip that resonates and then you journal to it, it actually deflates the sails a little bit of the headwinds and starts creating some tailwinds. So it gives you a little bit more clarity of direction with clearer words or actions or things like that. But the second part is understanding another. So it's like part demo, part doing. So you have people on your team that have also done this. I'm going to one of my teams. This is Pearson, our intern, is on this call. This is the Florida Stout. So Pearson will laugh at this. This is my family. So you have 4 of us. My daughter and I are exactly the same. And we've got my husband and my son. And then our one son, Ty, he gets this disc. And so when I'm going through the difference between Ty and me, because you can use this chart over here that kind of shows the difference. You can kind of pull them up, and it gives explanations of your difference. As I was teaching my son, who was 18 at the time, going through the difference between the 2 of us, he was laughing so hard. He was like, I knew I was not like you people. So it's a fun way, because when he was going off to college, I was using some of his tips to understand him. And basically, he's so analytical, he's so intelligent, that when he goes to do something new, his fear is higher than mine, because we're kind of like, positivity wins, let's just get it done. He's like, actually, I need facts and figures because I want to mitigate risk. So I would get really good advice on his personality type to basically say, share stories with Ty on things that he's done well before that seems similar. So I would share like when he went to camp, when he started a new class, and those types of things that just help me be a little bit more in tune with different words. And like, aren't you excited, buddy? You're going to college. That doesn't resonate all the time with everybody. But more importantly, bigger team. Person's laughing at the Stout family.
Yes, I am.
Don't worry, I'm getting you on a dashboard soon. So here we have, this is a dashboard. So the goal of this one is trying to understand another person. So here, when you have a dashboard, you can see like where your whole team is there, and you have the ability to search other people. So then, like what I was sharing with my son, Ty, you can search his profile just to ask questions like how to help Ty with stress, how to help this person. And that can come up, and that just kind of gives you good insight. And a lot of people, and I'm going to ask Linda this question, when it comes to one-on-one understanding another person, there's a lot of techniques people use to prepare for meetings or have a better, maybe a performance review or conversation. So Linda, I work with her company. They're XL Auto Parts and the Parts House. They're about $1 billion. They do auto parts. They basically sell auto parts. And they have a very large client employee base that use Cloverleaf. And I will say a lot of their community wasn't familiar with personality assessments in the first place. And they've really taken to this. So Linda, can I ask you, how have you seen employees, how do they use it? How do you use it? How does Cloverleaf help you understand another person?
We have it integrated with our calendar, so that helps. So then I can see who I'm meeting with, and there's automatically a tip right there on the calendar itself. So that's helpful. And then if there's a certain thing, like the other day, I had something new that I was wanted to persuade people about, I guess you could say. So there's a persuasion is one of the tips, one of the vitamin pill kind of things. And so I went to each person, and I went to that persuasion, and I scanned through their tips, and I actually cut and paste and send them to people. That's what I like to do too. So, I know you're looking for this, so here's what I'm, here's how I can answer that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And anyone can jump in this call. You can jump in. So Lucy,
Yeah, there's the vitamin pills that I call them, and persuasion. See, there's one persuasion. So that one in particular, I thought that was kind of interesting. And you look through the tips. So if I was trying to persuade Lucy to do something, or I wanted her on my side, I could read through, and something will trigger in my brain of how I could go about that, maybe differently than I would have otherwise.
Yeah. So this is an example. So for those on the call, we're just going live. I'm going kind of impromptu. So Linda was talking about persuasion. We happen to pull up somebody here. So pretend I'm meeting with Lucy, and pretend Lucy and I are really trying to work through how we do this, something we need to do together. And I'm like, how does Lucy persuade? How do I persuade Lucy? And I come up with a tip. So this is the first one that we come up with. So Lucy, can I ask, does that resonate to you, or any response to this?
I'm thinking on it.
If not, I'll just go to the next one.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think using the example, like Marcy, if you came to me at the early stages of something and you were excited about an idea and you're like, what do you think? And we're brainstorming and having fun. And then like a couple weeks later, you come to me and you're like, let's put it into action. I feel And we've had that before. I feel like that works with me. Versus, and I guess I'm just trying to think through the opposite. If I'm just presented a completely new idea, sometimes I like the context of things. I'm like, well, where did that come from? I don't feel like I fully understand. So how am I going to bring this to life? So I do think that this resonates for me. It's spot on.
Yeah. Okay, I'll say spot on. And then while I respond to that, so where, Luce and I collaborate together on things, I kind of, as a leader of Revel Coach, I'm really the one making the full decisions, and I'm going forward and I'm doing these things. And just as she was talking, there are times I like the idea generator in me. I'll just kind of share it. Like I have ideated with, say, Petra or my sister or somebody, and then this idea is blown into something like big. And then I clue Lucy in on the first time, and her energy is lower. It's like, I don't understand where this is coming from. What about this priority? Have you considered these ramifications? And one of her strengths is asking questions. But in that type of thing, if you're thinking about how you deal with another person, this is me. How do I make sure, like, give her enough information around things? So I can see like an energy change. And that's where, like, we talk about below center, when you interact with somebody, if it has something thoughtful, like below center isn't always, it's kind of more negative, but sometimes below center, that's where you have to challenge yourself to think differently. So that challenges me to be a better leader and partner. So it's just kind of like, I can read energy and I'm like, okay, something's not clicking. I can go through Lucy and look at that. So the last section I'd like to share, and then after this, we'll actually stop the recording, and then we can ask some more questions too about it. But I just want to show you the team part. So there's this self-awareness piece. And so again, like here at the self-awareness, you can query for yourself, and the technology knows to give Marcy advice based on Marcy's insight. And then if you want to do it on somebody else, like sorry, Lucy, I'm sticking with you, how to have a difficult conversation. You can even use the you can use the AI feature. And then it'll give you a lot of different information. This just helps you prepare. I see a lot of times a clash is if you have like a technical person on the team and a big picture think on the team, the level of data that's needed tends to be an obvious clash, but an innocent annoyance between the two, and just, between meetings. So some of my clients who really noticed that if they're more comfortable with directionally correct data, they can show up better for their leader who doesn't really care about the weeds. They like trust you to get the job done, but they don't plan on giving you every ounce of detail that they don't feel they need to consider to make a decision. So don't let good enough stop you. And then the opposite is true with those that actually aren't that good at data, or they haven't had the need for data. If they're working with someone that needs data, I will encourage them, based on comparing the difference, to be like, okay, what questions do you expect? What information can you verify? How can you go further with data? Because all you're trying to do is almost like, I always wish they had love languages on this, but it's just like the love languages book. If somebody's speaking one language and the other person doesn't speak the other language, they just don't communicate well. So Cloverleaf helps you translate how to sound, in the language of somebody else.
Marcy, I'll just mention that we used it during performance reviews. It's how to give feedback, because one manager could have 5 different people, for example, and they take feedback differently. Somebody wants kind of a soft approach. Somebody wants to tell it like it is. And Cloverleaf will give you those clues right there.
Yeah, I love that. And Linda, I will say, I find performance reviews is probably one of the best opportunities to have great, deep conversations with people. But sometimes it's overwhelming on how to prepare. So we get too technical about the task and we forget about the human on the other side who told their spouse, hey, today's my big performance review. And then something happens during that day. They come back and the spouse says, how did it go? And if you only talk about the work, you're missing an opportunity for deep connection. So Linda's advice there, and like being prepared of how to give feedback, it's really nice. Some people do better. I know a lot of people, I don't like to chit chat. I'm talking this full hour, but I don't actually like, when there's a meeting, I'm kind of quick, like, all right, well, the purpose of this is this. And I like kind of getting right into the meeting, while other people will shut down to me because I haven't earned their trust, because I haven't asked them about their weekend. I haven't had a thoughtful conversation to start the meeting, which I have assumptions that I'm kind of like a nice person that connects with people easily. I never knew that that was a big risk that I would, as a leader, until I started having Cloverleaf. And I was like, oh, and I actually could see that happening where some of my clients, I mean, I work pretty closely with bigger organizations. So I work a lot with their teams, and I recognize that certain people needed that time. So with certain meetings, I actually would change the agenda a little bit. So then that way I was prepared to have the chit chat without me, my achiever in me, being like, we only have 45 minutes. I've got a big agenda. So it's just a way of adjusting your style, because what works for you isn't the same for others. And that's fine. It's diversity of thought. All right. So last section, let's go into the team's dashboard. And again, I'm going to put Linda on the spot, because Linda, I think you have such relevant experience with, She's in charge of HR for the people plan for a very large organization. When it comes to like bigger groups and teams, are there any teams? How do you use Cloverleaf?
Best example is probably our one team concept, which you illustrated just the other week, where we brought in people from different parts of the organization and can put them on a team in Cloverleaf, so that these aren't people that are in the same silo, so they don't report up the same way. And you can see the diversity of thought on the team, and they need to work together. And when they can respect the other point of view, or how the other person is approaching the problems, it can really help build the solutions. So that's one way we have them create their own teams. There's that dashboard builder, so that you can, right there that you're illustrating, where you can add people together. We also have the structured teams, so there are functional teams as well. And so really one of the best things is just what I call Cloverleaf and coffee. Like, have your coffee in the morning, read your tip, and then start your day, and read it on somebody else and try to share with them. So the tip of the day is that journaling piece that you mentioned right off the gate. And they have it in there where you can save them. You can now have a coaching focus. So my coaching focus is developing others. So I'm getting more tips around developing others. And each coaching tip kind of, I don't know, just sets your day. And then you can reach out to people and understand them a little bit better. And they feel a little more seen and heard when you're sending them a tip and then having a conversation.
Yeah, really, it helps to create a sense of belonging, because when people feel understood, they show up a little bit better with feeling like I belong. So a real easy thing with teams is just starting a meeting, like, okay, everyone pick one Cloverleaf tip that describes you, and you just kind of read it out loud and you give a little sentence why. And it's fascinating as they go around the table to kind of share, what that is. And you just learn small little things, nuances that people are proud of themselves and their personality. And it helps, again, it's all about self-awareness, awareness of another, and then team dynamic. So one thing that Linda, my impromptu guest speaker, sorry about that, Linda, welcome to the team. One thing that Linda was sharing is there's this dashboard builder. So you can have, in an organization, there might be 100 people using it, but you have a meeting and there's just 4 of you. So you can quickly create a dashboard, and they, based on the variety of personality assessments, they kind of identify like different roles you can play. So here we only have 4. I might add, welcome, Lucy. I might add just the 5 of us so you can see some other people. But you can start meetings and you say, for this project, we're really, just say we're on a project and it's very stressful. You're dealing with a customer who might have had a disappointing experience with your product or your company, and you're trying to problem solve how to kind of go forward with a company that's disappointed. And you're also trying to figure out where the fault may lie within a cross-functional team. So you could start a meeting and say, based on this conversation, what strengths do we think we need to have in this conversation? What roles? And then people go around the table. You show the team's roles for the 5 of us. And you're like, at this point, I think, based on customer, somebody might say, I think we need somebody to really monitor what we're doing, because now's the time to kind of monitor the progress and what we're going to be doing. So you could recommend, like, I'd like to go further onto these 3 people's strengths. Or somebody might say, because of this challenge, I think we need to be a little more resourceful and different. And I think we need to think of where else we could kind of make connections for this client of ours. And I think we need to be really resourceful in the company and think of people. So all of these have different strengths. And it doesn't mean you don't have the ability to have that strength, but they're natural strength. They get enthusiastic about how to bring in resources, or, this person, if it's really a customer that you need to make a decision quickly, you could kind of have this person, Lana, be like, Lana, we're going to task you by the end of this 45-minute meeting. We would like you to summarize, keep us on track that we're completing the goal, which is to identify the gaps in the organization, identify the moving forward plan with the client and things like that. But just by knowing people's natural strengths, I've seen engagement that's different, because people, some people that are, say, a little more introverted might go into meetings like this that are like really intense and and they just might reserve their comments because they don't know the appropriate time to jump in. But if you assign responsibilities in advance and everybody kind of says, I'm going to lean in on this person because of that strength, you find the extroverts that take over meetings actually saying, I'm going to intentionally lean on, say, the finisher. And I'd like you to kind of keep track of the notes and things like that, because I think we really need to lean on that strength. But it changes the dynamics of a meeting. And it's really great to see people's, lean on each other.
I just want to add just what you said right now. At the end here is that this creates engagement and well-being in workplaces, because when people are doing what they love to do best and you're recognizing them for their natural talent, they're happy and thrilled to be in meetings like this. They're happy to show up. They're giving the best of themselves, which then in return makes them feel better and makes everybody feel better. So that's what we're looking for. And so this is a great tool.
Well, Petra, thank you for saying that. Those are the perfect words to turn off the recording.